And so trying to find your true purpose, I don't think you ever know exactly it's written out on a specific piece of paper what your purpose actually is. But I think as we get older, as we grow in business, as we grow in life, we get closer and closer to where we're supposed to be. I think that my wife and my purpose is truly to help business people, give them opportunity, give other people opportunity around us to create thriving businesses and successful marriages. That's what I'm super passionate about.
This is the Entrepreneurs United podcast with your hosts, John St. Pierre and Rich Hoffman.
Hey, entrepreneurs. Today we're sitting down with James Maguire. And James, before I tell people exactly what you're doing, I want to pick a little fight with you here. My teenage boys and their friends seem to be addicted to this thing called Crumbl Cookie. Do you know anything about that franchise?
Very limited. I don't know a ton about it. I know their cookies are incredible, gourmet, as big as your face, very healthy for you, obviously. No, it's a good treat, but I can't recommend you buy them every day.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, I think my kids do. I see it on my credit card a lot. But guys, today we have James Maguire. He's a franchise owner of several Crumbl Cookie franchises. I'm sure if you have teenage kids, you know them just like I do. But also, on a more positive side, James, I love pickleball, and you're the owner of a franchise called Pickler that has several locations across the Northeast. Tell us a little bit more about how you got into the franchising business yourself, because you seem to have many franchises that you're now running very successfully. Tell us a little bit about how that came to be for you.
Yeah, so not going into the nitty gritty of it, but Jeff and I, my brother, he's my partner, and we've done business since we were kids, landscaping and shoveling and all the things that you find with semi-entrepreneurial people. As we got older and older, we knew that we wanted to eventually get into business. And it happened that he was working with Planet Fitness franchisees in Arizona. He ended up building out with these guys, I think 30 something locations across Arizona, the Phoenix Valley, the country of Mexico, and Washington State. So he had a plethora of experience with the franchise model. This was back in the 2012 to 2017, 18, 19. And long story short, their commercial broker said, hey, you guys should check out this cookie business. For some reason, it's just exploding. It's taking off. Who knew America loved sugar? And so his owners were like, yeah, we're not really interested. But he brought it to me. And long story short, in 2019, we interviewed with the founder and co-founder. They accepted our application and we opened our first location in Methuen, Massachusetts in October of 2020. And man, it was a bumpy ride. Anybody that's listening that knows about franchising and startups knows that the franchisor does the best they can to give you the best product possible. But when you're early on, I think we were the 77th store, right in the 70s to open. Now there's 1,200. You can imagine the progression of training and information that we didn't have early on. So it was bumpy, but people were coming from New York, Canada to Massachusetts to buy our cookies. It was wild.
So I want to give the data on Crumbl Cookie and also the Pickler franchise. How many Crumbl Cookie franchises do you own? How many contracts?
Yeah, so currently we own and have 7 locations open, and we have licenses to build 3 more locations. We actually this is actually hot off the press. We just signed our 8th lease last week, and that's going to be in West Lebanon, New Hampshire, a really great area out in the middle of nowhere, but it's like a hidden gem where there's lots of people up there that love those types of treats and things. So we just signed that lease, and then we're looking currently in Northern Maine for our 9th location, and then we'll do a 10th location in New Hampshire. So we'll have 10 probably by the end of the year. And then for pickleball, we don't currently have one open. We will open our first location in Westbrook, Maine, probably January 1, beginning of January, maybe 2nd, 3rd week of January. You guys know how that is with build outs and town permitting and all that nonsense. So that'll be our first one, but we purchased 13 licenses for pickleball. So New England, we're going to pepper New England with that luxury Pickler experience, 6 or 7 licenses there. And then our other partner is also in Delaware, Pennsylvania. And so we're going to do 6 or 7 in that market because we know that one pretty well as well.
So I'm assuming when you started with Crumbl, you started with one franchise?
Yeah, it's unique and everybody probably has a different experience. Every franchisor is a little bit different. In the early days of Crumbl, they were very strict on who they would allow to buy more licenses. So in the early days, they only let us buy one. Now, if you were friends or family, you could buy unlimited licenses, right? But those of us who were outsiders, they only allowed us to buy one. As soon as they opened it up to more, we got right back in. They monitored our metrics. They wanted to make sure we were running a good operation before they said, hey, you can expand. So yeah, then we quickly bought 3 more, which got us to 4. And then after we opened those 3, they allowed us to expand again and buy 3 more. Now we control the border of Massachusetts and north in New England. And so Crumbl is very cautious right now with opening any more locations. There's a lot of data that has to go into it. And if you're not an insider, they actually won't even let you buy a license. So you have to be a current owner to buy more. So our path was different. A lot of franchises with the Pickler, we bought 13 licenses day one and you're ready to go. You guys know this, but franchisors are different with the way they allow you to grow and expand.
I'd love to know about your journey from, hey, we bought one Crumbl franchise, that's owner operated.
Yeah.
You went from 1 to then getting an additional 3 franchises. There's a leadership journey in that of you're more in control when you're in the business, when you're at that facility. There's something around your journey from doing that to letting go of some of that control, trusting other people to run your business in your absence. Talk to me about that evolution.
That's a tough pill to swallow at times. From day one, it was, we're never going to be like that owner who's on the golf course while you're slaving away, right? We're never going to be that owner. But there comes a point where you have to realize as the owner, do you just want to be an owner operator and have 2, maybe 3 locations, run them really smooth, and that's like your job? Or do you want to become an owner and you want to scale and you want to do something really big? And so for my brother, Jeff, and I, we always wanted to do something big. This was my first opportunity in the franchising space and as a business owner space. And so you're 100% right. There is a level of leadership that I had capped out at our first location. And I'm an avid reader, avid podcast listener. So there was an epiphany moment where I just dug right back into one of John Maxwell's books. I'm sure you guys are familiar. And I just started diving into leadership as often and as much as I could and said, if we're going to scale properly and run these right, I need to create more leaders. I need to create more people similar to myself. They're never going to be me per se, but we need to get them 80% of the way there. The bad part with when we first opened our stores, we hired a manager and then we had to fire him a week before we opened our first location. So that really put me in that manager, role, which wasn't ideal, put a lot of strain on my wife and my marriage, which we talk about in our podcast, but you're 100% right. So to answer your question, it took a mindset shift of we need to find some good leaders who we can coach and train in store and remote as I'm going to open store number 2. And we actually did. We found, and we made him a partner as well, a minority partner, but his name's Jason St. Louis, incredible guy, 13 years of experience in the food and service industry, quick service industry. And he was like a light bulb. Like there was a point where I was like, are we ever going to find anybody that could keep up with us? Are we ever going to find it? And man, this guy came in, he took the bull by the horns. In the early days, he was closing the store with the team members. He was there till 1, 2, 3 in the morning, like making sure things were on point. And so once you find like a running mate, I don't know if you're familiar with Patrick, but David, but he talks about a running mate type of individual. Jason's that guy. He's that on the ground. He gets the leadership skills and responsibilities. You're right. For me, it was a mindset shift, Rich, where I needed to say, if we're going to make this thing, I have to offload these small things that I'm doing, these tasks. We need to find the right people that can do it. And I would say in this industry, in the quick service industry like Crumbl, it's semi-cyclical. We've had 2 managers that have been with us for 3 years, which is a long time. in this industry, people don't always think about quick service as a career. These young individuals started with us as bakers. We promoted them and trained them all the way up through to become management. There was definitely a mindset shift, and I needed to get out of my own way and say, dude, if you're going to scale this properly, you've got to become a leader and not a manager. So there was a lot there and a lot of battles. And I guess the last thing I'd say on that too is it's come back again, Rich, had a conversation with an employee 2 weeks ago, team member. And she said to me, hey, it's not like it used to be. And she's been with us since day one too. And that hurts a little bit because you're like, man, I wish it could be like it used to be. But the only way it's going to be like that is if I'm the guy. And I can't be the guy if we want to scale and do something big. So
I think people use words for a reason. And you used the words create more leaders. You didn't say find more leaders, say create more good workers. You said create more leaders. I think every entrepreneur would want to know, how do you do that?
Yeah, that's the magic bullet, right? I think for us, it's really that promotion from within. It's really that internal person. Because for a long time, we were very against hiring managers from the outside. You could hire anybody from the outside. The problem is you don't know their habits. You don't know their bad habits. You don't know their good habits. You don't know anything until you've worked with them. I would say probably 3, 4, 5 weeks. And that's 40 hours a week, like just constantly working with these people. You don't really get to know who they are. You can do the video interviews and you can do the questionnaires and the personality assessments and the tests and the DISC assessment. We've done all that with our people. But you don't really get to know them until friction happens, until Susie calls out sick and they're the first one to jump up and say, I got this, no problem. I got it, right? That's a character key, if you will. And so I would say, how do you create them? I would say you're not always going to be able to create everybody. You're going to have to look really hard for people that show signs of leadership. I would say for us, one of the biggest sign that we see is character. You give somebody a task. Do they complete it and come back to you for more? If they don't, that's okay. They might be a level 1 leader or level 2 leader, but they might not be that person that could maybe regionally manage. They might be really good at one store, and that's good. And we don't want to not pour time into them, but you may not put as much time into that person as you would somebody that comes back to you and says, hey, I loved that. I learned that. What else can I learn? The other aspect too is, and I had a mentor tell me a long time ago, is find people that are coachable. Not everybody's coachable. A lot of people say they're coachable, but find people that are coachable that, again, like I said, you can give a task to, they listen to you, they come back. There's really no secret bullet. There's no secret sauce. We've been through a lot of team members, a lot of managers over years. We have had, I'd say our leadership retention is pretty good. Those 2 individuals that have been with us, we've had Jason with us for 4+ years. We've had another leader that's been with us for 2.5, 3 years. So we have decent retention in that leadership space. As I grew in my leadership, I knew that my coaching and my responsibility to the people beneath me was to raise them up, give them the right tools that they needed to succeed, right? Because, and I heard this, and I'll end here, but I heard this quote one time and I forget who it was, but they basically said, if my goal and vision and dream does not encompass the team beneath me, it does not encompass their goal and dream, then they're going to leave me and they're going to go over to, let's say, Rich, whose goals and dreams do encompass his team. So my goals and dreams and vision have to be so big that they encompass my entire team.
I'll tell you what, James, you just walked right into my question. What is you and your brother's big, hairy, audacious goal that your team wants to follow?
Yeah, that's a good question. We actually got some real clarity on that this past year. We are big fans of Patrick and David. Went to his conference in September, and it's just always it's not these rah-rah conferences, right? It's this very strategic conference. It gives you a 200-page manual that you take notes through. And so it's really good. But he just got us back to what is your goal and dream? And we've been semi-clear on it, but we got really clear. And I'll just tell you briefly what it is. And we've talked to our team about this as soon as we revitalized it and got super clear. But it's 3 things. We look at it like a 3-pillar stool. It's three things. It's one, it's cash flowing businesses that can essentially fund other things. And that's where we want our team. We want our team in those cash flowing businesses that they can help us grow those businesses. So it's Crumbl, it's Pickleball, it's pizza franchise, it's whatever businesses that are maybe brick and mortar or it's sales that bring in cash flow. So that's the first pillar that we have going and is pretty strong right now, working on Pickler, which is that second part of the stool, that same leg. The second stool is real estate. We've got a lot of people on our team that really like real estate, bought their first homes, are interested in rentals. They don't have enough disposable income where they can invest yet and do those types of things. So our second big goal and stool leg, if you will, is we want to create not necessarily a retirement fund, but a fund that our team can participate in and become a part owner and shareholder of a rental property that we can purchase together. And so we floated that idea around with them and we got an incredible response. It was like, hey team, do you want to do a 401k traditional, like a traditional 401k retirement plan? Or would you rather maybe get on board with real estate with us? Because we're going to do real estate regardless, and have this asset that you can then be a part of, you can invest into, you can take tax benefits from. And so that's a huge part of us. When we were younger growing, we had mentors and coaches and people that said, okay, I want to give you opportunity. And that's a part of that. And so the second stool there is real estate, those type of assets with depreciation, appreciation, tax benefits, so on. And then the third one is educational. This is the one that really excites me, is educational. Our team loves this too. We were thinking, and I'll tell you like our big vision here in a minute, but these really encompass it, is we want to get our team involved in education, and it's consulting, it's online courses for franchisees. And so our goal for this education piece is we want to become the number one franchise coaching and consulting firm. And what we want to do with that is we want our leaders to be the consultants. Who better to teach you guys or anybody that's getting into the franchise space? Who better to teach you on how to monitor your labor or your cost of goods than somebody who's doing it on a daily basis in the field, right? For me, I'm not monitoring that stuff on the day-to-day anymore. And so our goal is we want to create this educational system where Rich is getting into Crumbl and he's never done it before. And Rich, we can get you signed up with an educational program and you're going to coach with Jason, who is in the field, coaching on labor, coaching on cost of goods, coaching on the proper schedule based on volume and data and so on. And he'll walk you through this kind of game plan. What that does for us and our team is it, number one, allows our team to make more money because they're going to get a part of that consulting fee. And then number two, it allows us to get our name out there and be this franchising consulting brand. And I don't know of anybody that's actually focused specifically on consulting and coaching just startup franchisees on how to do those things. Jeff and my dream and actual true vision and mission statement is to provide opportunity for other people. Very simple. We just want to provide opportunity for other people, mainly our team and then people beyond that. And so I know that was maybe a long term to your answer, but it's creating that three-legged stool with those three pillars and then ultimately having all that create opportunity for other people around us.
I love it. Thank you very much for sharing. When I was pissed at you at the beginning of the call, not only was I serious, what I forgot to mention was that my kids literally go to your locations. Like,
really?
So I live in the Portsmouth, New Hampshire area.
Okay.
So they go to the Newington, New Hampshire Crumbl Cookie all the time.
Okay.
And I'm sure that's one of your locations, if not close to it.
It's actually not. So I will be honest, that one and the Rochester one, we had a really good franchisee, great guys. And I think they're potentially selling, but they snuck in and grabbed those two locations. We weren't super happy with them. But,
all right. Maybe I'm not as
they're
mad
great
at you. Maybe it's
people.
somebody else I should be mad at.
I said, if you could have your kids come a little farther south, that would be great.
You know what I was going to say, James? And I don't know, like Rich, you live in Iowa, so maybe feeling different, but I'm listening to you talk about your three legs of the stool. And I heard you when you made James a partner in the business. And I heard how you're investing in your team, and I love cash flow. I love cash flow.
Yeah.
We generate cash flow here. We reinvest to start a new business, and that's how you
Mhm.
scale and grow. And I love that. And if we're going to grow, we need more managers, we need more people. And oh, by
Yeah.
the way, we're going to help show you how to invest properly into your future and help you there. And oh, by the way, there's other opportunities as we continue to grow. Because if my vision's not big enough, you're going to leave and go somewhere else. My question was going to be, can my kids come work for you? They need a summer job. And this is the type of mentorship that I think is missing. Rich, you and I had this benefit. Rich and I both ran a franchise in college, a painting franchise back in the late 90s, where we were taught and had mentors like yourself and Jeff teach us how to run a business.
Yeah.
And it's paid so much dividend throughout our entire life of learning at such a young age how to run a business, not just how to be the painter or the baker in your case, or running a pickleball court or whatever it may be, but teaching them how to really understand the business. And Rich and I were those people. And James, I'm sure you were that person as well, that when we got a task, we did it. And we went right back to our boss and said, what else can I do? I want to learn. We were in the culture of, I'll do the work now and you'll pay me later. Like I'll do it for free. I'll work the extra hours. I don't really care. I want to be a part of this organization. Whereas today, it's hard to find those people. You find the reverse. They want to get paid now and pay me more because I'm worth more money, and then I'll do the work. And so trying to find those people are key. But the culture you're creating, I just want to celebrate that, because that's the culture I think that's going to really help youth become entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And you're 100% right. We work with teenagers, college people, and you hit it spot on. It's, what am I going to make today? Because I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow. And we've had very few people come through our facilities that are okay with working for free. And it's not for free. My mentor told me when I was in finance, got started in finance full-time, I was full-time commission, zero salary, zero nothing. Right out of the military, my wife had a private school teaching job that paid her like $28,000 a year. So we were living on $28,000 a year, and I had to go out and sell something. And I'll tell you what, I don't regret it. I would recommend everybody has to do door-to-door sales or some sort of sales, because the tenacity that it taught me to take rejection and no, but then to go back and get the right answer. And that's what I did. I would have a conversation with a client or prospective customer. They would say no, they would do this. I would go back to my mentor. I would say, hey, this is what they said. This is what they did. What should I do next time? I would go back. I would do it again. Back. It was craziness. You tell young 18, 19, 20, 25-year-olds to do that today. Going to pay me $100,000. I'll do that for $100,000, and they still won't do it.
Yeah. With you encouraging people to do consulting and coaching, have any of them left you to do that as a full-time job for themselves and create their own deal?
We were thinking about that, Jeff and I, as we started talking about this educational piece. To answer your question directly, no one has done that yet. We aren't doing it really full-time yet. We're just dabbling in that. We want to really get the cash flowing squared away, the real estate squared away, and then there's a huge platform, as you guys probably know, to coaching and consulting and all that stuff. So we've dabbled in it a little bit ourselves, and we've brought our minority partner, Jason, on to do some of those things. Because again, I'm farther away from the business now, where it's like, Jason, the food costs, the ordering, the labor. Can you talk to Tucker about this? Because he's got some questions. So I'll pass that off to him, and we're not really getting any extra pay for that, but he's dabbling in that and loves it. Like dude, I love coaching these people. Like the biggest thing for him is seeing the result. And you guys probably the same. When someone actually listens to you and you know what's going to happen, and then you see the fruit of their profit and loss go up by 2 or 3%, you're like, told you, right? You just had to listen. So he thrives on that. But to answer your question, we haven't really gotten into that space a ton. That's probably maybe a 18-month probably goal to get that education piece squared away and up and running. I want to circle back really quick. Is you talked about creating leaders. If we don't, just business owners in general and people with a vision, if we don't get a clear picture of where we want to go and where it's going to benefit that 22-year-old or 21-year-old, then they're not going to follow us. And so it's like creating these small goal lines, because I'm a visionary type of person where I can see where I'm going to be in 10 years. I know where I'm going to be living. I know what my family's going to look like. I know how I'm going to be flying places. Like I can see that pretty clear. Most people can't see that. And so I've been accused of being a visionary in a negative way. And I try to take that and I say, you know what, you're right. I need to give people more short-term hey, in 12 months, this is where I see you. I see you managing 2 locations, but we've got to hit these metrics first. And I think that's how you incubate leadership in some of the youth now, is you have to show them where they could be, but you can't make it 10 years because they want to make 250 grand tomorrow.
2 pieces to that I just heard from you. One is talk to them about their career path on what's next for them, make it shorter term. So it's something that seems a little more tangible. That's the first piece. But the second piece is giving them the criteria.
Yeah.
What needs to happen in the way of the results in your current position or in the way of your development in your current position in order to unlock that next opportunity? Is that kind of the formula you use?
Yeah, 100%. And I'll tell you, I am terrible at this. This is one huge aspect that I need to learn even more and more. I'm aware of it. So I'm self-aware that I do this, but I'm not as good at it as I should be, because I need to give that 6-month goal, right? And I need to give that 6-month review. Here's what we talked about the last 6 months. Here's where I want to see you, and here's how you should get there. Now let's follow up with your regional, make sure that they're following up on the strategic plan, and then let's get you there. And so that's a big thing I've been working on over the last year is be more short term and get more granular with how people get to where they go. One example, just our culture and trying to lead the youth in the right direction, is one of our store managers, Maya. She's been with us since we opened one of our stores. She's been with us almost 4 years now. And she dropped out of school. Not that I'm proud that she dropped out of school, but she dropped out of school because she saw the future of where she could go with us. To me, now I have a big responsibility. It doesn't mean her success is on me. Her success is on her if she's doing the right things. But she chose, I could get a lot farther with these guys, learning business, understanding what they're doing, opening these stores, potentially getting into pickleball with them as well, than I could learn from a 4-year business degree or marketing degree, what have you. And I know we're not talking about college, so I don't want to muddy the water with my thoughts on college, but I'm proud of her in that aspect of, hey, you can do on the job training, make really good income, work with some really interesting people, but it's my responsibility to make sure I at least pave the path for her so she has a way to go. And if I'm not doing that, then am I a good leader? Probably not.
So I want to set you up in a role as a coach yourself. And let's say you're coaching another entrepreneur to specifically set up this real estate pillar where you make the offer. Do you want to be in a 401k or do you want to be part of this real estate fund? What's the advice you would give an entrepreneur who you might be coaching on? How do they go about setting that up? What does it look like? What's the first step that they would need to take?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is, I'm not a lawyer, an attorney, or a tax accountant, CPA. So always consult with wherever state you're in and with your professionals. You've got to have a team of professionals. At that point, then once you have a plan from them, that number one, because some states won't allow it, some legalities will require you not to be able to do that. So that's the first thing, is make sure that it's legal, make sure that you can actually do that with your team. Some investment firms can actually set that up through IRAs or self-directed IRAs and things like that. But there's some legalities there that you got to figure out. So that's the first thing. The second thing is just, we floated the idea around to our team, just in conversation as we worked with them in general. Some of the team members that were like interested in real estate and are familiar with like how Airbnbs work and things like that were like just talking about it on a regular basis. So we knew they'd be interested. Some other ones had no idea that this would be even an option to them down the road. And so those individuals need a little bit more education and understanding on how that would look, how that would work, how they would be able to invest. But there is a lot of intricacies and details towards it. 401ks, I'm just really familiar with. I know they can be costly to the business and to the employee or team member, depending on which plans you go with. Simple IRAs are typically very inexpensive. but then the team member is going to share in the fee structure of that. It may be better to go with that right out the gate. And maybe there's just a personal side deal for people that are actually interested in it. And so I think that's the aspect that you want to start with first, is understand your state, your localities, and what does that look like with an accountant or your financial controller consultant from that aspect. But then from there, it's just, okay, what's the goal? What's the plan? Are we doing commercial property? Are we doing residential property? Are we doing an Airbnb property? Are we doing long-term? Are we doing short-term? And then figuring that stuff out. The aspect that I would say too, though, is, and this may sound cutthroat, but you don't want to leave big decisions in maybe the hands of the team members. So this needs to be a majority controlled by the owners with some feedback and some input. Hey guys, here's 4 properties we're looking at to Airbnb in Florida, right? And these are the ones that we're thinking. We've done the research. We've used this X, Y, and Z company. We believe these will be the most profitable. We believe these will be the most unique use, blah, blah, blah. And so I think, because we just have a different perspective on how money's used, how it works, so on, leveraging things like that we've learned over time and that maybe they haven't learned. Doesn't mean they can't learn it, right? And so I think you just want to be careful with who has control of it and who's making the final decision. And then the last thing I would say is, don't necessarily rely on the team's funds to be able to do something. If you plan on being able to do real estate or you want to do real estate, make sure that you and whoever your majority partners are can handle that transaction if you needed to.
Strikes me with this whole optionality of, do you want a traditional 401k or do you want to participate in this program? Is that my experience is that a lot of employees take the 401k program for granted. They take your contributions for granted a little bit. It's just there. It's just something I get. And you never see people around the water cooler going, hey, how did you diversify your 401k? I got some Apple stock. What do you got? No one ever, they don't have that energy around it. I could just see the energy around the 3 of us working together. We all own a building that maybe I only own 5% of the building. Rich only owns 5% of the building and you own 90% of the building. It doesn't matter. We're in this thing together and it's cool. And I can go around to my Christmas party and tell people I own real estate too. And it just buys me in more to the culture and vision of the company. So it's really cool. I never really thought about that as an option. Not a big real estate guy to begin with, but I could certainly see entrepreneurs that are into real estate thinking about this kind of option. I love it. I do agree with you. Definitely talk to your CPAs and accountants and lawyers. The one thing that I think all entrepreneurs listening to this should really be thinking about, guys, is diversification. Way too many entrepreneurs have all their eggs in one basket. They've bought themselves a job. They're working it, but 99% of their wealth is in that one business. And it's dependent on the people that work in that business. And it's like a one-trick pony, if you will. And even if you do this real estate option, you can run let's say you run a franchise. We know a lot of people that run very successful one franchise business and runs really well for them. But then to be able to diversify into real estate or other types of passive income opportunities or Airbnb properties, or even just stocks and mutual funds, whatever, diversify your wealth. You guys have seemed to really be keyed into that and want that full diversification of options, which I think comes back to James' vision. And I guess in closing here, talk to entrepreneurs about the importance of having a long-term vision, not only for yourself, but for your business.
Yeah. So I keep using Patrick, but David, but he just has so many nuggets. I apologize. You got to check him out. But this is another thing that came from the conference, and it's just so applicable. There's 4 stages to entrepreneurship. Again, this is his words, and I wholeheartedly bring it in. There's 4 stages. The first stage is survival, and everybody's been there. It's been, you're working 60, 70, 80, 100 hours a week to make sure the business runs. You're not taking a paycheck. The team gets paid first. There's no vacations. Like, you can't sleep. You're waking up at 2, 3 a.m. Not sure if the Cisco truck's going to show up or if the team members are going to be there. If somebody's going to quit, right? Everybody's been in that type of a situation and you're just trying to survive and make it work. So that's the first stage. The second stage is status. You start to get your feet underneath you. You get to couple leaders in the facility and you start to see some nice P&Ls, 20%, 22%, 25%. You're bringing in some money and Christmas is good this year. You're buying a new car and you're buying the watch and you're getting some newer clothes, upgrading. You're just upgrading your lifestyle and you're getting status. But that doesn't satisfy. So you move into this next level, which is called freedom. The third stage is called freedom. And you've got a couple locations maybe, or you've got one location. It's just crushing it. You have great leadership in place. People are semi-happy and nobody can put their thumb on you. COVID happens. You take a private jet somewhere and you're good. You're down in Florida hanging out on the beach. You've got this freedom. And for myself, I've gone through all those stages except the last one. The last one is really where I'm working on. The last stage is called purpose. And I think purpose, because money is good and it makes the world go round, but money literally only gives you options. So do I fly economy or do I fly first class? Do I buy a Toyota or do I buy a Land Rover? It just gives you options. That's really all it does. And so once I learned that maybe a year and a half ago, because we're all going through these things, I'm getting vulnerable here with you guys, but everybody goes through it. And so I think the sooner you recognize it and can understand it, you can move to that last stage, which is purpose. And that's really where I feel like I've entered that stage of, I want to run a really great business. I want it to be highly profitable and successful. I want to lead our team. I want to provide them opportunity. But why am I truly on earth? Like it goes a little bit deeper than just business, right? What are you really here to do? Because I believe everybody's on earth for a specific reason. We're supposed to do something big, I think. And so trying to find your true purpose, I don't think you ever know exactly it's written out on a specific piece of paper what your purpose actually is. But I think as we get older, as we grow in business, as we grow in life, we get closer and closer to where we're supposed to be. I think that my wife and my purpose is truly to help business people, give them opportunity, give other people opportunity around us to create thriving businesses and successful marriages. That's what I'm super passionate about. That's what my wife and I are passionate about because we did the business thing together and it was wild, very rocky at times. But I think everybody's at one of those levels of entrepreneurship, survival status, freedom, or purpose. And I think the faster you can go through them, and everybody takes different times, you can really get to that last level of purpose on what impact do you want to have on the next generation? Like I got a 3-year-old and I look at her and get up every day and I say, how am I going to make her life a little bit better today? How am I going to impact her? My wife and I are literally just talking about this morning. She's 3, so she's having some of those 3-year-old fits. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if we let these continue, she's going to be like a wild child when she's a teenager, right?
Yeah.
And so it's these habits that build and build and build. So as a father and a husband, I have the responsibility to man up and to say, we're not going to allow these to continue to happen because I need her to have a better opportunity at 25 than I did.
Yep.
Right. And so I think that's truly the purpose phase. And I'll tell you, I battle with it all the time. But if you don't put something down on paper that you feel like you're passionate about and shoots you in the right direction, you'll just wonder. To be honest, I think the last year and a half, not that I was wondering, but I was just like in this not sure where I'm going yet phase. So I think that's it, is just try to find your purpose. And that's where I feel like mine and my wife's purpose is at. I feel like we're aligned there and could adjust a couple degrees to the left or a couple degrees to the right, but that's the journey that we're on right now. So we're pumped about it.
Thanks for sharing that in that vulnerable fashion. And I think sometimes we talk too much business here. So here's my final question for both of you, and I'll give an answer as well. It can only be a 1-sentence answer, by the way.
Okay.
What is the 1-sentence key to a successful marriage?
Rich, do you get to go first or do I go first?
Sure, I will first. I think there's a hierarchy in terms of where we spend our time and what we value most. I think that hierarchy goes in the order of take care of yourself first, take care of your marriage second, take care of your kids third. Everything else comes fourth. And I think when things don't go well in life, it's when people end up getting that hierarchy out of order. where they don't prioritize themselves and they put the kids over themselves, or they put the kids over the marriage, or they put the work over the marriage, where the work comes in fourth, everything else. I think we have to prioritize things in that order. And I think marriages go well. So do families. So does life.
Okay. I'll consider that a run-on sentence, but great response.
I love it. I would say the key to a successful marriage in one sentence is completely clear and trustworthy communication. For my wife, and that's a small sentence there, but for my wife and I, everything goes back to communication for us. And I think it's no different in business. I think if you communicate clearly to people, to your staff, the expectations, and that's where we get into problems, is I didn't communicate clearly to Susie, and so she jacked that up, and that's my fault, right? Same thing with my wife. I didn't communicate the schedule or how I'm training her kids, and things get jacked up. So yeah, we're big on communication. I think that creates a lot of success in your marriage.
Love that. Mine's going to be a little bit of a blend of yours, James, but my one sentence is Saturday night date night.
That's good. I like it.
We've been doing those date nights ever since we met, through kids newly born, all the way until this day. And it leads to that clear communication and just always spending time enjoying each other. It leads also to, Rich, what you talked about, just prioritizing that. So thanks for sharing, James. This was a great conversation. Thanks for coming on, speaking with us today. And I think the nuggets you share, especially this last piece, you got to know where you're going. Ultimately, that's the path of why are we here and what are we doing and what's the greater good. So really enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks, James.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Stay tuned as John and Rich unpack today's conversation.
Provide opportunity for other people. I think that is incredibly powerful. And I think, John, all the work that you and I have done with entrepreneurs, when they keep pushing their vision out and push their vision out and push their vision out, the spoiler alert is eventually that vision becomes about other people. Once our needs are completely satisfied, it becomes about other people consistently. Really cool to connect with James today, where that's what he's all about.
Yeah, and the one way he helps other people is by creating more leaders. And I love the idea of create a culture where you promote from within, where you hire people based on character and values, but then they demonstrate the character and values and you can train the skill. But once you have people that have the character and values and they show the desire to be leaders, if you can train them now for the skill and then help them in their own personal lives, their own balance sheets and their purpose, achieve things and grow things. And I think the one thing, Rich, I'm taking away from this is I consider myself to be a visionary as well. I have considered myself to be a visionary. But I think James is stretching me here a little bit because I don't know if I share and or sell a big enough vision to my team beyond their respective companies and what they're doing today. And that's something I need to take away from this conversation. Really think about the way they're expanding the manager of that one Crumbl Cookie location to beyond what else they can do beyond that within their ecosystem. I think I need to do a little bit more stretching of my vision and helping people see a bigger picture so they want to be part of this vision long term. That's a takeaway for me today.
Yeah, and it's 3 pillars. One on be part of my vision. We want something that's going to cash flow well. We want a successful business. Let's get a real estate fund together where you can create some real wealth. And then let me help you out with some side income even, where you can do coaching and consulting for people who want to be successful, like what you are in my business. That is a really all-inclusive vision. I've got to go back on this internal promotion piece. I loved one of the things he said, among other things. You don't know someone until friction happens.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how true is that? Like, it's really easy to play the best foot forward game in an interview or do your personality test or things are going great and hitting goals. But when friction happens, that's when you find out who somebody really is. And he's saying, yeah, you don't get that up front. You got to work with somebody 4 or 5 weeks or so for friction to happen, for them to really expose who they are.
Yeah, I love that. Hopefully you all enjoyed this conversation with James. And if you're a big pickleball player or cookie eater, now know where to go. See you next time.